Coming up on Law Weekly, the Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Mahmood Mohammed, has launched the National Judicial Policy Guidelines. The Chief Judge of the Federal Capital Territory, Justice Isiaq Bello, says judges must be upright. Should the embattled justices step down, lawyers give their take. Welcome to Law Weekly on Channels Television. I'm Victoria Idowu. As a fallout of corruption charges leveled against the judiciary, the Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Mahmood Mohammed, has formally presented the National Judicial Policy Guidelines. He also set up an ethics standing committee to provide oversight over judicial officers and court registrars.
This gathering was like a homecoming, as former justices of the Supreme Court, including Justice Muhammad Uwais, Justice Emmanuel Ajibola, Justice Legbo Kutigi, and Justice Dahiru Mustafa returned to the Supreme Court for the official presentation of the National Judicial Policy and the inauguration of the Ethics Standing Committee by the National Judicial Council. To set the ball rolling, the Chief Justice says the decision to unveil a new judicial policy and set up the committee predates the events of the 7th and 8th of October 2016, when about 7 justices of the country were arrested and detained for alleged corruption and breach of professional ethics.
The National Judicial Policy is born out of the realization that the Nigerian judiciary had been adversely affected by the absence of a clear, coordinated policy framework that defined its core morals, values, objects, and aspirations. Such concerns have bordered upon the need to make qualitative and integrity-driven dispensation of justice, which is transparent, honest, trustworthy, the hallmark of a transformed judiciary.
The Chief Justice also inaugurated a 10-man ethics standing committee headed by former Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Legbo Kutigi. Members include former Chief Justices and the President of the Nigerian Bar Association.
The committee will conduct periodic surveys on behalf of the National Judicial Council so as to provide empirical measurements. These periodic measurements will also act as a form of oversight, ensuring that any reports of laxity on the part of judicial officers are investigated and appropriately dealt with by the Council.
But for former Chief Justice of Nigeria, the move will put to rest a long-held belief that the judiciary lacks a far-reaching disciplinary structure.
I had always opined that our judges needed to be guided by common sets of values while enabling the judiciary to uniformly develop using the same overreaching principle that will enable us to optimally perform our critical constitutional mandate. I'm therefore glad to note that this national judicial policy is the culmination of years of work largely carried out under the tenure of the present Chief Justice of Nigeria.
The policy provides guidelines on judicial discipline, code of conduct, performance, and independence. It also has provision for judicial transparency and anti-corruption.
Reactions have continued to trail the decision of the National Judicial Council, NJC, to bar media reportage of allegations of misconduct leveled against judges.
I don't think the intention is to shut out the media. I think the intention is to avoid media trials. You see, it's become it's the vogue now for you to have somebody before you even take the person to court. There's so much. The media is awash with all kinds of allegations, all kinds of things, both the things that happened and the things that didn't happen. I think that is what they are trying to address.
I think it's both ways. I think at this stage in the development of the Nigerian nation, I think some of these transactions should be made public.
I also did a brief analysis of the new national judicial policy with a senior advocate of Nigeria, Wale Akuni. I asked him about the difference between the Code of Conduct for Judicial Officers and this new judicial policy.
We must all agree that we're in a dynamic world. And this new policy, for me, shows that the NJC is responsive, and it is actually a dynamic institution. It's responsive to issues that have been coming up over the years. The good thing about policy is that it will be reviewed over and over as time goes on. So in its wisdom, the NJC was obviously responding to certain issues when it decided that probably it is high time to put a stop to judges receiving gifts.
The new policy empowers the NJC to place a judge under investigation on interim suspension, which is it goes against what they have stood on as not putting these judges on suspension. Now, does this affect these judges or the future? What does this mean at this time?
Well, as we all know, I mean, statutes and things of that nature don't usually have retrospective effect. I'm not sure how the NJC will deal with this issue as of today. There is no hard and fast rule about it. I believe the NJC should be able to look at the issue, the cases as they come.
The new policy bars the media from reporting details of petitions until the council considers it right for such disclosures. Does this not go against the freedom of information?
The interference of media and the like in matters that are in court, I think it's something that we need to deal with in this country. Everyone has a presumption of innocence. Now, a person is castigated in the media, all social media, about the fact that he has stolen this, is corrupt, is this and that. When the investigation is eventually conducted, or he's even tried, and the court finds him not guilty, how does he deal with it? To now get back and start to show that he is not guilty, how does he deal with all that? I think it's only fair that when that investigation is being conducted, that everybody should hold their peace. Let the investigative authorities carry out their investigation. If there is a basis or a substantial case is made out, let the person then face the trial. If he's found guilty, then the issue is there for the whole world to see. And for me, whether the person is a judicial officer or is not a judicial officer, my views remain the same thing. I am totally against this situation where the investigative agencies of state parade suspects in the media. The people who are suspected to have kidnapped so and so person are paraded. That is totally against their rights. And I think it's really wrong for these things to be done. And I really don't see anything wrong in the NJC policy on this.
Some people say that it looks like the judiciary has something to hide.
Well, you see, it's just the same way people will feel that a man that doesn't want to talk to the press has something to hide. There is an institutional mechanism set up under our laws to deal with these issues. And I can't remember the name of the case now. The mere fact that something is of interest to the public doesn't make it in the public interest. There's a world of difference between something that is of interest to the public or in the public interest. A matter may be nice for us to be discussing and talking about. Yes, the public is interested in it, but it doesn't mean it is in the public interest. They're two different things.
And okay, finally, another aspect that I would want us to look at is the directive that the judges participating in sensitive and highly visible trials such as election petition proceedings must declare their personal assets before and after the conclusion of each case. How is that going to work?
Well, again, I think it's another way of the NJC responding to the challenges and the mischiefs that has occurred over the last several years. Now, I think there's always been allegations that in election cases, in all those sort of high value and sensitive cases, people get corrupted and things like that. So the NJC wants to put something in place to ensure that before you start this case, you let us know what your assets are and when you finish as well. I think all these things are really to deal with, because I think judges are required to declare their assets, I suppose it's every year or something. I'm not very, very sure about that now. But the fact of the matter is that the NJC is trying to put its own self-regulatory mechanisms in place to ensure that it actually continues to keep check of judicial officers who are dealing with special assignments. And I think when you're dealing with a special assignment, there's a possibility that things may go wrong, and the NJC is trying to capture that as well.
The Chief Judge of the Federal Capital Territory, Justice Isiaq Bello, has called on judges and other judicial officers in the nation's capital to live above boards in the discharge of their duties.
Guard of honor praise mounted by the Nigeria Police FCT Command Abuja in commemoration of 2016-2017 legal year.
The arrival of the Chief Judge of the Federal Capital Territory. His arrival with the 35 judges in the nation's capital signals the beginning of the proceedings to usher in the 2016-2017 legal year of the Federal Capital Territory. And then it's time for inspection of the guard of honor mounted by the police. Done with the inspection, the Chief Judge recognizes court officials who have distinguished themselves in the last judicial year. With the ceremony over, it's straight to the ceremonial court for the first sitting of the year, and the Chief Judge used the opportunity to speak on the events surrounding the judiciary in the last 3 weeks.
I'm bold to say that the judiciary is determined to eradicate corruption within its fold and seeks the support of relevant agencies. However, this should be within legal limits and in line with laid down rules and procedure.
On his part, the Attorney General of the Federation says the federal government is committed to making Nigeria a country free of corruption and impunity, but this can only happen with a judiciary that is committed to speedy and quality dispensation of justice.
Judicial officers must equally take deliberate steps to ensure that credibility of their offices and their sense of personal integrity remain unimpeachable at all times.
But the representative of the Senior Advocates of Nigeria urges the judiciary as a whole to see this as an opportunity to introspect and cleanse itself of any dirt. He also called on those who claim to know the corrupt officers in the judiciary to name names.
This is the time to plead with those seniors and privileged senior advocates who claim in the media to know the bad ones, to name names and shame those senior and junior lawyers and judicial officers who they knew perpetrated endemic corruption and bring the administration of justice to shame. Judicial officers must be treated in accordance with the law and rules of the NJC, not any noise of the market.
There is no doubt that there is a consensus that the judiciary needs reform if it is to regain its pride of place in the hearts of Nigerians.
Coming up after the break, lawyers talk on whether or not the justices under investigation should step down. Join us again.